it, right?
I said we lost the recording from yesterday, and that sucks. So what are we gonna do now?
That was truly, that was like unrepeatable. Fresh. We solved every problem.
I know.
Had only the world heard that.
Yeah.
I'm just devastated. Personally, I don't know if we're gonna be able to repeat that.
Well,
does lightning strike twice? I don't know.
I think Hashem wants Moshiach to come and solve the problem, because apparently our stuff was full of like preetzus and all this kind of stuff. Oh, speaking of which, a friend of mine just posted the latest shiur by Rabbi Shimon Kessin, entitled
I
"The Reality of the Last 2,000 Years and How It Connects to the Messianic Period." He is like, I spoke to Rabbi Mendel and asked him, "What's the difference between you and your brother?" He goes, "My brother is more harif. My brother is more. He doesn't give you any like hope. He just gives it to you straight how it is." Anyway, I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
He also likes to give over his own chidushim. Like Correct. He's like, no one has ever said this before. This is my chidush.
No one has ever said this before.
But I'll prove it to you.
Yeah. No, it's great. He does prove it to you.
He's very passionate.
Yeah. He's great. I don't know. I like him. He was actually. I heard him. You know what happened? I heard him in 2000, like, I don't know, 14 or 15. His Tisha B'Av shiur about Iran and you know the Midrash. What is it called? Yalkut Shimoni. How you know, Saudi Arabia is going to come to Edom and consult with Edom about Iran. And then I told my friend, I was like, dude, this guy is dope. And he goes, if you think this guy's dope, check out his brother Mendel. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? And then it's like, yeah, he's like twin brother. I'm like, what? And then I listened to Mendel. I started listening to Mendel right when he started his his current events thing with the Hillary and all that kind of stuff. Basically, when Trump started running, and I was like, oh my god, this is like.
What? Wait, hold up, wait a sec. Did you say they're twins?
They are twin brothers.
I thought they kind of looked alike, but
they are twin.
But I thought maybe one was older.
No, they are twin brothers. They are twin brothers.
So they're not identical, but they're pretty close.
They are identical twins. No, they're identical twins. They are. It's just like one looks.
They're not identical. They don't look exactly like each other. So
they're more. It's just like, you know, one is more. What's his name? Shimon is a little more kind of. I call him bear-like, and then Mendel is more kind of like a wizard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you will, what is it? Gandalf from what's his face from Lord of the Rings, I guess. So that's
Gandalf, maybe.
So that's Mendel. I think that's Gandalf. Yeah, that's Mendel, and then Shimon is more like I don't know.
I don't know why I got the impression that Shimon was a little bit younger, like maybe a couple of years.
He's a little more spry than Mendel. He seems to be, at least. I don't know how he is now, but but yeah, they're twin brothers.
Well, you look at that.
Ну, посмотри на это. Что ты говоришь?
That's right.
Yo, check this out. I have a friend who he's a professor. He's a professor in University of Chicago. University of Illinois Chicago. He's like a math professor, and he basically he's standing up to all this woke crap. You know, all this like critical race theory crap. Even though he's a professor of math, so I don't even know why he has to. So here he is. There's a whole thing.
Math is the white man's game.
Yeah. So he writes. The inimitable Chad Topaz is gearing up for another cancellation attempt. This time of me. I guess he's gathering lists of my co-authors who've expressed anti-DEI. I know that the new heresy, I guess it's something to do with math or something, as evidence of my race, quote-unquote racism. This should be interesting. So you gotta understand, this guy, he's the son of my parents' friends who also were like dissidents in the Soviet Union. And I guess, you know, they taught him well. So this guy who was trying to cancel him wrote the following: trying to solve a little racism problem for funsies. This is how these people write, you know, like anyone who have connections to the University of Illinois Chicago, optimally folks who are not vulnerable to the institution, e.g. tenured faculty, secure staff alums, because ethics. I don't want people getting harmed. If I had time, which I don't, here's what I do. I'd construct a co-author network starting with the Kontorovich, but this basically is making a list. Then I would take the most central people in the network, look at their Twitters, Facebooks, whatever, and see who expressed racist, anti-DEI, etc. viewpoints. Dude, this is what they did in the Soviet Union. Exactly, to a T. They made lists of people, and they recorded what they said, and whatever, and they put them in a little box.
But the people in the Soviet Union ain't got no guns or Bibles.
Exactly.
We got guns and Bibles.
Verstehst. And I just applied. I have to go get my fingerprints in 2 weeks, but I just applied for a permit in the state where I live, which is apparently easy to get. It's just that you still can't, like, you can't open carry here. You can only keep it in your house, I guess.
Well, there's three levels. There's concealed carry, which we all enjoy here in the United States. And then and then you guys, that's really what what you're looking for. And if you're not allowed to do that in your state, guess what? You're not living in America.
Yeah. Well, let's see what here. Concealed carry in the United States. Here. Where the hell is this damn thing? Hello, list of states. Where the hell? Oh, here we go. This is like here. What the hell? Yeah, here you go. You got a constitutional carry, which is all these like middle America stuff, and then you got shall issue. I don't know what that means. Shall issue, and then restrictive may issue. That's like Jersey and New York City. And then if you go to upstate New York, you actually have shall issue and may issue, and then some places, and then you go to actually Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont. You got constitutional carry, permitless. You don't need a permit.
Oh yeah, and I mean those people don't even deserve it because I don't understand how they maintain that. I mean, they want to support people who want to take away all that. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, here you go. Unrestricted. Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, duty to inform if carrying concealed without permit. Mississippi, only if carried a belt, holster, purse, hand, satchel, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire. Wait, what happened to Florida? Florida is a shall issue state. Shall issue. I don't know what that means. Shall issue and non-resident permits available. Interesting. And then permit reciprocity. Florida, 35 states. 21 plus, 21 over only, 18 if military. So I understand. It's not a concealed carry.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, there was a reciprocity in Louisiana, so that was convenient.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, so you got, okay. Wait, okay. Interesting. So Louisiana looks like it just says shall issue. It's not unrestricted. I don't even know what these things mean. I have to learn.
No, restricted. I'm guessing restricted just means that you still have to get the permission of the government.
Gotcha.
You have to deal with have to deal with all that stuff. Whereas we're not really supposed to. That's not really how it's supposed to be.
Oh, here there's another website that just has all the concealed carry states. This is very weird. Hold on. It doesn't show you.
You know, there's a website. Oh man, I wish I could remember. There's a guy. I think his last name is Locke.
Mm-hmm.
He has a website where he does research about violent crime, homicide by state, where he shows you that every place where there's the more concealed carry permits issued, the lower the violent crime.
For sure. People be like, it's just so like, people don't get it. It's like these guys are still gonna get their guns. whoever wants to do these
I mean,
criminals.
the criminals are not the law abiding.
The criminals. And you know what? Yeah, and then these psycho kids who walk into the schools. It's like, listen, just it's very simple. Just don't give a gun to a psycho. Have a psychological evaluation, and that's it. Like,
or that's not. I wouldn't say that's the answer. You see, if you notice that there's a pattern. So the psychos, they want to be famous psychos. Okay, so, and they've always proven, because this is доказали уже давно.
Yeah.
Proven that they will attack the most vulnerable targets.
Yeah.
Okay, so they only go to gun-free zones.
Yeah.
Okay, because what that means is, it's a sign saying, "Look at us, we're a bunch of idiots. No one here has a gun. Please come and shoot us. It's a shooting gallery. Enjoy."
Yeah.
That's what it means. And there's a lot of psychos out there. So how do you handle that? You don't. Guess what? No gun-free zones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let people carry. At least have armed guards. If you're going to send your children to a school where they're going to spend most of their day, you might want to take some precautions.
Listen, where I, not where I live, but I have a lot of friends who live in Judea and Samaria, and the teachers are armed. And like everybody was so, it's like people, you mentioned this to like leftists, and they're just like, "Oh my God, this and that." I'm like, they're not going to shoot the kids. That's not the point. Like they just don't understand. Like I don't understand where does this come from? Like why do they like? Where does that kind of psychology come from? Like where people are not able to grasp that there's like good. I mean, I guess it's just like a simple thing. They don't understand good versus evil. They don't understand that there's good people with guns and bad people with guns. But how does that even come to be? That lack of understanding by people,
Look, it's a very successful cult. Leftism in general, it's a very, very successful cult because it's based on emotions.
Yeah.
It's based on beautiful dreams, right? Yeah. And very, very low on reality, as we can see. Yeah. Everything involved in it.
We just had a conversation about American, who, and also there's like, I think there's a correlation between that. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's basically, if you have an emotionally incontinent population.
Yeah.
Not incompetent, incontinent. I hope that came through.
Yeah, incontinent. Yeah, like the emotions are not properly channeled.
The emotions are not properly channeled.
Yeah.
Everything is. Trying to remember my words. I'm getting zapped. I'm probably getting zapped. That's why I can't remember stuff. Just kidding. Although I wouldn't put them past them. I'm just not important enough. That's all. So basically. They, there's that expression, she doesn't suffer fools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No BS type person, right?
Yeah.
So, but leftism in its stages, when it's taking over, right? Mm-hmm. It suffers every type of fool. Especially, it only suffers fool. That's the point. You understand? It indulges every idiotic, non-realistic thought and feeling that a person has, and they make safe spaces for those type of things. Yeah. You understand? Where you can just kind of be a shithead that you're not supposed to be. Right? Where all the worst character traits are indulged rather than, it's very, very unhealthy. Like, look at Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Like, my heart goes out to some of these people. I don't know if I should name names. I probably shouldn't. But there are people who are mentally ill, who need to be institutionalized. And instead, what happens? They make them famous. They make them into entertainers. And they indulge their behavior and encourage it. And they get crazier and more destructive and crazier and more destructive. And we find it funny. Okay? So that's... and then they kill themselves, right?
Yeah.
Or
the other
Chris
theory,
Farley,
the other theory is that they're given something called MK Ultra, and then they don't actually kill themselves, and that they are Epstein.
What is that? What does Epstein mean? What is? Is he alive somewhere with Elvis?
No,
what's going on?
No. They are killed, but somebody pretends it was a suicide or an overdose. Well, they make it look like it's one. But they're really.
But why would anybody kill Farley?
No, Farley. Farley. I think OD'd, but I think there's other people. I don't know. No, well, there's this whole theory of like if we were talking about them, people being used as sacrifices. Not korbanot, but sacrifices.
I wasn't even going there. I wasn't going that deep.
I was just giving you the other option. I know you weren't going there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's good to know that we can venture there. Yeah. But is that drill? You hear the drill?
Yeah. What is that? You?
Sorry.
Yeah. I thought it was another one of those things that we heard yesterday while we were talking about the Tic Tac UFOs.
It was not a Tic Tac. This is a drill, but
this is a drill. This is only a drill.
It's only a drill. I'm only a drill. Yes, I'm only a drill.
What the hell?
And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
What the hell?
Oh no, that's a bill. That's a bill. My bad.
Well, that's from January 6th.
Yeah. Yo, I saw something today. That sack of shit, Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Now, he's a sack of shit even if he didn't actually make the statement. But if he did make the statement, it only, reinforces it.
Yeah.
So he was telling the cops about during the January 6th, quote unquote, insurrection. Right. So yeah, ridiculous. So he was saying that he was telling the cops, "You got guns, use them." He was encouraging the cops to shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
What a shocker, huh?
Yeah.
Meaning, I'm not shocked.
Listen, all these people are paid by someone. They're paid by someone. That's why, like, a friend of mine said on Shabbos, "Oh, it was we were talking about the whole fraud thing," and he's like, "Yeah, but all these cases were thrown out on by Republican judges." And I'm like, dude, take the label away from these people and open up their bank account and see where they got the wire from a week before or a month before, and you'll have your answer. Like, it's so people can't fathom that even in America, that there could be something like the Soviet Union where a bunch of judges all over the country just could just have money wired to them or blackmailed and be told what to do in the event of X, Y, and Z. They can't picture it. They can't imagine that would be the case. Все-таки честные, everybody's so like good, and whatever, they think that people at the top, people in power, are just the same as them. Like,
it's this whole situation has really popped like any bubbles or any ideas I had about adults. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it's all like anybody who can say that, anybody who could sit there and really believe or accept that any of these people are honest and they're not lying and they're not what they are is not an adult.
Yeah, I know. It's like a wishful thinking child.
Exactly. Okay. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about. That is indulged to the highest degree possible, because then you have an emotionally incontinent population, right? And then it's so easy to manipulate them. Yeah. You have the most psychotic element of society who just can't wait to take advantage of an entire population like that. And look what's happening. I mean, here we are.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Let's say something of substance.
Okay.
What could any of us have actually done? Let's say what could we have done to prevent the situation? What could we have done to stop people like this from getting, from giving them, from electing them, from allowing them into the halls.
Well, we spoke about this yesterday. How it's like that joke that I made. When you meet some of these guys or women, this guy's proof that Hashem decides parnasa, or in this case, this guy's proof that Hashem decides the person's place in life. So I don't know that there's anything. Meaning, there's what you can do. You can vote them out, or you can vote them in. But the people that are put up as, so to speak, choices, I don't think we're like so much in control of that. I think recently, you see like these people like what's her face, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and all these kind of people like her. Recently, regular people, quote unquote, have begun to like slip through the cracks. But
I'll believe it when I don't know if I could believe that anymore.
But what I'm saying is, like, apart from those kind of people, which are like a lot of these people, these elitists consider to be kooks, we can't really do anything about that. It just seems like I'm telling you, it just seems like there's this like elite class of people that like they even did a thing about when Obama was president. They did a whole genealogy. Obama's like somehow related to like one of these founding fathers. How the hell is that even possible? But it is possible.
Well, his mother.
Because
his mother is a white lady.
Yeah, no, but she's a white lady. But there's a whole network of these people that go back to the. You and I don't go back to those dudes, to Adams and Schmadams and all those guys.
Speak for yourself. I'm related to Thomas Jefferson.
Are you sure you're not related to Mr. Jefferson from the Jeffersons?
Oh, no, that's really. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. His name is Sherman Helmsley.
Yeah, Sherman Helmsley. Maybe you relate to him. I was,
Weezy's my aunt's nephew.
Yeah. So, like, as soon as I heard about that whole Obama thing with Adams or whoever he was related to, I was just like, okay, I get it. It's just whatever, It be what it be. These people keep a grip on their stuff, and they are who they are. Today they just caught Don Lemon hanging out in Miami without a mask, and then the woman is like, "Oh, you're on the CNN telling everybody to wear a mask." Do you think he gives a damn if you expose this hypocrisy? Do you think these people care if they're hypocrites? No, like you said, Newsom, Schmoosum, all of it. They don't give a crap. They're doing it in your face, and it's part and parcel of that same. It's like, what's his name? That other Anderson Cooper. Dude, the guy's a Vanderbilt. His mom's a Vanderbilt. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
In the words of Al Pacino, what are you going to do about it? A-hole.
Al Pacino's one of them too, probably.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
Al Pacino is clearly Satan himself. He's already come out. And he has discussed it in depth. Hang on a second. Yeah. 1 second.
Oh, goodness.
I'm drilling. And that's not a euphemism. I'm literally drilling. So, here's what I think. Here's the only way to stop these people. I mean, they rely on complacency.
Yeah.
Okay? So, complacency needs to go away. So for example, you have to, if you are fully aware of what's going on in your area on the local level, right? If you know your sheriff, the sheriff of your county, if you know the city councilman, if you know everybody involved in your child's education, if every parent, instead of coming home and watching TV, instead they got involved in the school and precisely what the children are being taught, and are they being taught American values? That's primary. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. Because math ain't shit. And reading ain't, hooked on phonics did nothing for me if I don't live in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So, instead of watching the crap, instead of just like someone, like a loved one of mine says, "Не кушай говно."
Exactly. Don't eat shit.
Understand? You come home and you start eating shit.
Or as the character of Yosef from Baba Fira, "Я кушаю твое говно, бабушка." Do you remember that shit?
It's crazy.
Do you remember those?
I don't remember that, but it's
those YouTube. She's like, she comes up to him because he's eating, because he's like really fat and he's eating Chinese food or whatever. She's like, "Ты кушаешь говно," and he's like, "Я кушаю твое говно, бабушка."
I gotta say that I was kind of like on a little binge watching those videos, and they're great.
Yeah.
Except it hurt because my grandmother's name was Fira. Why did you have to choose my grandma's name?
First of all, yeah, anybody whose grandma named Fira, that sucks. First of all. Second of all, do you know that we created that character? My friends and I created that character in 2009. We were doing a Bubba Fira.
And you sold it to him?
No, I think word gets around to Brooklyn, and they heard about this Bubba Fira thing, and they ran with it. I'm telling you, we had a Bubba Fira character. I did the character. I did it. Me and my friend did the change. Oh goodness. And our voice was slightly like lower. It wasn't so high. And yeah, we had a Bubba Fira character, and these guys ran with it. They stole it. And I even called out, what's his name, as like jokingly, I called out that Yosef guy, the fat guy, and he acknowledged. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
I didn't get any royalties. I didn't get any nothing. Just
his characters are pretty good. Bubba Fira isn't great. Yeah. I think his best character is like the daughter. The young one.
Yeah.
She works at a medical office. You know what I'm talking about?
Margarita or some shit, stuff like that.
I don't know, but we all know this girl.
Yeah, of course.
We all know this.
Здравствуйте. Yeah.
Ой, my God, что он сделал?
Да, я пошла в Brooklyn College, да, я буду этот самый speech pathologist.
The speech pathologist. Not to offend any speech pathologists out there.
Not to offend every frum girl out there.
You're a credit to your community.
Yes.
Please don't write letters.
Yeah, we were talking the other time, the lost tape, in the lost recording about how we are like saying things and we don't want women to come after us. Not that we care, but
no, we were just. I think it was just an echo of a time when we did care.
Yeah.
And now we don't care.
Yeah. Well, because you're married and
it's just funny.
You're married and I have no hope of getting married, so we just don't care.
I don't know why you're saying you have no hope of getting married.
I'm kidding. I just need to avoid the people who need to be avoided, and I'll be fine.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told you where you have to, where you got to fish.
That's right.
Okay, it's not. Okay. We're not going to get into it because I don't need letters. But if I had a fireplace, I would love letters, a lot of letters.
Is that Norm
Macdonald? But I don't have that.
I feel like that's something he
said. No, that's nothing. I'm heavily. I mean, I would be honored to ever heat his furnace and his fireplace and heat his house in the winter.
Yeah.
And this is a real story. It's 100% true.
I believe it. That's very funny. I think we're going to that point. Like the debt ceiling. What is it called? The debt ceiling deadline is December 3rd. By the way, speaking of deadlines, most people don't realize this. In Israel, the deadline for the Knesset to pass the actual budget that Bennett was like bragging about, that they supposedly passed, but they actually have to pass it, is November 4th, this Thursday. And if they don't do that, there's going to be a new election.
I want to express this. I want to figure out a way to say this. Does anybody else get the feeling that any type of nobody's doing government work anymore? Like, it's all a fraud. It's so no one cares about budgets.
Of course,
it's already been decided.
Yeah, it's all priced in, as Greenspan used to say. It's all priced in. Yeah.
I don't know why they're going through, they're pretending, oh yeah, we're working on the budget. What? I mean, come on, at this point, you literally poisoned your whole country.
Dude, 2 years ago, I got a ride home from this lawyer lady from the supermarket in Israel, because random people just offer you ride, if you have crazy, what is it called? Groceries and stuff, and it's a pain to schlep,
Yeah.
And she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer for the state. She's a lawyer for the state of Israel. she goes to me. I'm like, so what are you actually doing now? This was like during I don't know, election number 3 or 4. I don't know, whatever. They couldn't make a coalition, and so they couldn't. The government didn't have a budget. She goes, well, I prosecute terrorists, and there are no. Everything is frozen. All the cases at that time are frozen because there's no funds to allocate. I'm like, so what are you doing? I mean, well, listen, I have my salary from before. I can't. I was supposed to renegotiate my salary, and then whatever the cases that are kind of like, I don't know, local or something like that, she can do that. But then you're talking about like national, terrorism cases, or like the guys that they catch in whatever, in Judea and Samaria, stuff like that. She can't. So I'm like, what do they do then? So then these guys are like adjudicated by like the military or something like that. You know, she's like, I don't even. She's like, this country runs on a miracle. She's like, Israel runs on a miracle. The fact that we have like lawyers who cannot prosecute people who want to, are enemies of the state is crazy. And they don't have a budget for that. And they didn't have a budget for like 2 years.
I'm kind of hoping. This is me, indulging in a little bit of fantasy, yeah. and I recognize that it is, but it kind of feels a certain way. It feels like all the governments have been taken over by some whatever foreign entity. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. All right, and then they're slowly kind of letting the world know that there's no actual government work being done.
No, there is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know how I know that? Because a friend of mine just sent me a SoundCloud recording of. It's the official channel of SoundCloud channel of World Economic Forum, and on that recording, it's like a 20-minute recording, and on that recording is Klaus Schwab. It's from like a year ago, yeah. and like they're just talking about we have to this and we have to that and we have to do this and we have to do that. I'm like, who the hell is we? And they're talking about the IMF. And the World Bank and Microsoft and MasterCard. I'm like, who is we and what are you going to do? I didn't elect you. I didn't appoint you. Who are you? Where did you come from? What do you? I didn't ask for you.
The self-appointed rulers of the earth.
I don't see. He says there's people responding to this. People who are like, Klaus Schwab, remind me of the communist dictator Enver Hoxha, who dictated over us with iron fist. I guess this is Albania. Where the elites had everything they want, went everywhere they wished, while we, the people, had nothing. This is like Soviet Union also. Elites use people as slaves and gain happiness of that, while Albanian people... Oh my God. Hello? What was that noise?
Yeah, I'm here. I apologize.
Yeah. Albanian people struggle for food because the elite dictated how much food people can have and eat. What school they can go to and where they can live. Who can travel? People were allowed to own a car. People... were not allowed to leave the country. This is what a Green New Deal will look like. People had nothing, not even a freedom of press or speech, and you're not allowed to watch but only communist network / CNN, while the elites have everything. I've been there, done that. Not having anything now, and now I have everything. I'm much happier. Klaus needs to shut his pie hole because he is no better than his Nazi's father who served Hitler and the Nazis during World War II. Wake up. And all these people like responding, Klaus Schwab, evil man, commies, Klaus Schwab.
So Klaus Schwab is a nice German boy, is he?
Yeah, he's actually. I think he's actually Swiss, but whatever. Same neutral crap. Oh no, he is German. I'm sorry. He is German. He is German. I'm sorry.
I am relieved because I didn't want to ask the question that I didn't want to know the answer.
No, he's German.
You know what I'm saying?
He's German. No, he's German. He's German. I apologize. So he's saying.
No, but you know the question I was scared to ask, right?
Why? What's to be scared? What, he has Nazi relatives? Of course he does.
No, I was scared to ask if he's,
What?
You know what I'm scared to ask.
What? If he's a
I'm just grateful he's not a Jew. I'm just grateful he's not a Jew.
He's not Jewish. But can I tell you something? He was mentored by Henry Kissinger. So that tells you everything you need to know. He was at Harvard. Schwab began what is described as a 50-year-long mentorship by Henry Kissinger. He's like Henry Kissinger's Daniel-san. Kissinger is like his Mr. Miyagi. Speaking of Karate Kid. He is a former member of the Bilderberg Group. Oh. Nice, right?
The Bilderbergers?
Bilderberg Group. Yeah.
Is that like Build-A-Bear?
Close. The bear being, the control of the world economy behind people's backs. Yeah.
Look, honestly, people don't get it. Literally all you have to do is arm yourself, okay, and turn the TV off.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Well, I started step one.
So yeah, and I mean, this is for the folks at home. This is getting real. Like I'm sure you've heard these ideas and you've shot them, but kind of happening. They poisoned half the earth, if not more.
Yeah.
And entire countries. We're going to see what's going to happen. Okay, if there's not a miracle, which I'm counting on. Yeah. But yeah, so just turn the TV off and get to know your neighbors, get to know the local officials. Okay, because that's what you're going to need. Yeah. Everybody has to band together on the local level. They can't do nothing if you do that.
Yeah, of course. That's true.
So.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Even if you live in LA.
Yeah.
I heard. I'm hoping this is true, but I heard that the sheriff of LA County said that he will not enforce. He will not enforce vaccine mandates.
He said that. Yeah, he did say that.
He did say that, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't dreaming about it.
Yeah, no, he said it. Can I read to you something? So, this guy. Well, whatever. You don't go on Twitter so much. There's a guy, Zuby Music. Rapper, author, podcaster, speaker, and coach. He has a good amount of followers, like 500,000 followers on Twitter. And he posts about all this stuff. So he goes here. If I worked for a company, he's responding to somebody who wrote, employers are largely rejecting medical and religious exemptions. So he writes, I don't understand why millions of people choose to work for employers that don't even respect them on a basic level. There are other options. Hate that so many people always have to learn the hard way. Maybe it's a good thing long term. And then he goes, if I worked for a company and they even consider this level of disrespect and unethical behavior, I'd be gone the next day. Bye. There are always options. You do not need a medical or religious exemption to refuse a medical procedure, especially an unnecessary one. I don't want it is a totally sufficient reason. You are a free and autonomous human being with rights. Act like it. Trying to force things into other people's bodies without their approval, desire, and informed consent under coercion is rapey. Don't be rapey. I've seen people make you have the freedom to make that choice, but then you don't have to accept the consequences argument. That's hyper rapey, weirdos. Yeah, that's basically it.
That sounds like some kind of millennial rebel right there. Yeah. I didn't get most of his terminology, but
he's trying to relate to whatever. Yeah, these people, blah blah blah. I don't know.
So people like, what's your name? There was a rapper, girl, who got in trouble recently because she didn't want to take the vaccine. What's your name? What am I talking about?
Oh my God. Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj, right? I was about to say Big Butt because that's all I could remember.
I didn't even think she said I don't want to take it. She just said it's I gotta think about it. This and that and the other. This is a whole it's a complex issue. That's what she said. Something like that.
It's a complex issue.
That's what she said. Man. That's what she said. Literally, that's what she said.
She actually said that?
No, she said here. I'll tell you what she said. I'll tell you exactly what she said here before they canceled her Twitter. And
I don't even know exactly what she said, but
here.
You're gonna force this on me? I regret bringing this up. Okay.
You know what sucks?
Dude, we're not even gonna try to repeat what happened yesterday, right? It's just too painful, right?
It's not a question of painful. It's a question of it's a question of it's difficult. I don't know. I don't remember what we even got into.
I know. If we could just remember the topics, perhaps we could revisit them.
The topics were, well, you were talking about in terms of wow. There was something to do with Moshiach.
Right. Oh yeah. So can I I remember it now, and this is probably,
okay.
I mean, the most important topic that we touched upon, not arguably, definitely. Mm-hmm. So there were, how do you bring Moshiach? How do you actually do it? So I was discussing what the ideas of a couple of different people. Mm. So for me, I'm going to start with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Mm. He made some concrete statements. Mm. He said that you have to learn in Yonei Mashiach, basically learn every possible thing that there is to learn about Mashiach. Every statement of Chazal about Mashiach. Yeah. Okay? And that is the main task that we have to do above everything else. Sorry, that was another metal thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, that fell. Okay, so above everything that we have to do, and that doesn't mean everything else gets negated. You have to obviously don't speak lashon hara. Obviously, sinas no sinas chinam, mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Or sinas ahava. What's the word?
Achavat chinam. Achavat chinam. Which is a really my friend's Rebbe has a huge problem with like these rabbis who say, in order to we have to counter sinas hinam with achavat chinam. He goes, oh, you want to make everything in this world free? Free this, free that. It's like this hippy dippy stuff, Jew stuff.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So because you know why? Because no one explains what sinas chinam really is.
Yeah. And no one explains
hatred. Hatred for no reason.
Yeah.
But there's reasons to hate someone.
Yeah, of course.
There are legitimate reasons to for hatred. Yeah. I mean, we're not looking for it.
Yeah.
But if you see somebody behaving atrociously, if you see somebody, doing some kind of sacrificing to Moloch, just the most hyperbolic, ridiculous example, right? So I don't think you need to love that guy.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So, right. So, and if you see people who are trying to harm anybody, okay? You see people who are trying to harm people, okay? Try to take advantage of them, trying to steal from them, acting abhorrently, right? You don't have to love them. You don't have to. You see people murdering people, you don't have to love them. I was thinking, because I was struggling with this topic, I was like, what do I do about George Soros? Yeah. I hate him. And I was struggling with that. Yeah. So I was speaking to different rabbis. I'm like, what do I do with this hatred? Like, should I send him a basket for Purim? Well, Shalach Manos. Like, what am I? How do I deal with this? Yeah. Like, virulent, like visceral hatred, right? Well, what do I do? Yeah. And I never got a straight answer. But not too long ago, I actually heard somebody define sinas chinam, and that kind of cleared everything up. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that I don't have to love a person who does that much harm to the world.
Yeah, of course.
And especially to the Jewish people.
Yeah, of course not.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Like that guy, like that guy should be curb stomped, like in Borough Park. Like he shouldn't be able to walk down the street comfortably there.
That's very funny. Specifically in Borough Park.
Borough Park and Williamsburg and places like that, because you know why? Because
it's funny.
They don't do what he does, right? Yeah. But the word Jew is associated with him, right?
Yeah.
Which means that they're going to go looking for those who look Jewish, right? Yeah. Who have nothing to do with him, or nothing to do with anything that he believes or wants to do in this world.
Yeah.
And he comes from generations of people who hate Jews.
Yeah.
Which is odd.
Who Soros?
You understand? Like
Soros.
Even his father. His father
was Schwartz.
His father was a person who just wanted to free his mind so that the rest would follow. He wanted to be colorblind.
Yeah.
And not be so shallow.
Yeah. I love that song. It's in Vogue.
Right? Yeah. So in Vogue.
Yeah.
Man, but they were pretty. They were smoking.
Yeah,
they were a smokestack.
Smokestack.
There was 4 smokestacks.
Yeah.
right? From the 90s. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they had some good singles. But basically, the point is that his father came from, he wanted to free the world of race and religion and ethnic identity, and he wanted no borders. He wanted no culture. He wanted a world that spoke one language. I think they called it, I was going to say Libertango, but Libertango is the name of a song.
No,
but it's something that sounds like that.
It's there's oh my god, hold on. UN. It's spoken in the UN. It's called
spoken in the UN.
Yeah, in the UN they have like hold on.
They have their own language at the UN. Good
hold
Lord.
Hold on. It's called oh my god.
Some kind of L word.
Yeah.
It's an L word.
Ladino you're talking about? No, it's not.
Not
Ladino.
Ladino.
No, hold on.
Ladino is Spanish Hebrew.
Hold on. It's not Ladino. It's called. Oh my god. Hold on.
Lingual, something like.
Yeah.
Django Unchained. Django Unchained. That's what it's called.
No. I know what you're talking about. World language. Esperanto.
I was close. Django Unchained. Yeah. Esperanto. Yeah. Same thing.
There's also
tomato.
Interlingua. They made
Interlingua. That's the one. That is the one. And what was the other one?
Esperanto is the one.
Esperanto.
I know about. Yeah, that's the one I know about. Yeah, Constructed International Auxiliary Language.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. He wanted people to speak that language, and he was very, 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 very anti-Jewish. The whole identity. You have leftist Jews who are more hatred for Jewiness than skinheads.
Theodore Soros. That was his name. Theodore Schwartz. Is that what you're talking about? Hungarian, Soros' father, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he like Soros and that whole crew. Okay. What is it? Fabian socialists? Am I revealing my ignorance? Is that Fabian?
I have no.
Fabian.
Yeah, he founded the Esperanto literary. Yeah, he actually he founded the Esperanto literary magazine Literatura Mondo, and edited it from 22 to 24. What?
Fucking clown! It was just hilarious. Anyway, the point
wrote the short novel Moderne Robinson, Modern Robinsons, whatever.
Right. So you have these fellas, right? Some of these, unfortunately, guys from who came from Jewish stock, and they hate the Jewish ethnicity and identity passionately more than any other. Why? Because it's so persistent, and therefore it is the biggest enemy. It's the biggest obstacle to their vision of the world.
Yeah. It's like, why is this stuff still sticking around after all these years? They're probably sitting around wondering, like, what the heck?
People have been wondering that for like 3,000 years. So, and I just want to say something to everybody, to Jewish people, to not Jewish people, to Arab people, and Arab people should hear this, okay? And this is not a threat. This is just a fact. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is not necessarily a fact that it's not necessarily a satisfying one. There is a fact. God has designated a land in the Middle East, and he wants that land to be called Israel, and he wants this particular group of people to live on the land. Anybody is welcome to join this particular group of people, by the way. It's not a closed club. But this is what he wants in the land of Israel. No amount of attacks, no amount of lefty Jews, no amount of faggoty, religious Jews who don't do anything about it, no amount of politicians or globalists or nothing will stop the fact that God wants that, and he will get it.
Yeah.
Even if I wanted to stop it, because it's like, there's so much pain and it gets drawn on for so long. I'm talking to people who are like, who think that, that Israel is a failed project, and you don't understand. Yeah. Don't mess with it, because it'll just get dragged on longer and longer and longer, and God will get what he wants. It doesn't matter if there's 1 trillion Arabs, 100 trillion Arabs. It doesn't matter.
Do you know how I know
God will get what he wants.
Can I tell you something? You know how I know that's true? I'll tell you how I know that's true what you're saying. Because I have a lot of friends who live in the hills of Judea and Samaria. I have friends I'll say it openly, honestly, at this point, because it doesn't really matter. I have friends who live in a place called Esh Kodesh. It's just outside of Shiloh, in where we had the Mishkan for 369 years, our tabernacle, before we had a temple. And this place, Esh Kodesh, started out as one of those hilltop, where people just went out and built, these little boxes or caravans or whatever it was, without permits. Yeah. And when they started doing it, obviously in the beginning, our own government, our own police, whomever, would just come and dismantle the homes. And these guys, the ones who build it, they don't give a damn. They persisted. They kept rebuilding in the same spot. They rebuilt it. The guys dismantled it. They rebuilt it. They must have done this like 5 or 10 times. And eventually, these places, these hilltop places, become towns. They become towns that are actually what I would call semi-recognized by the Israeli government. They get their water. They'll start to get their water and electricity from the main town nearest them, which in this case is Shiloh, which is actually recognized by these people. It's already a recognized town. People there have permits to build. So and this town now, Esh Kodesh, where my friends live, is not going to be dismantled. It's just not. There's vineyards there. There's this. There's that. There's road. Kind of roads that are not necessarily paved, but they're not like totally dirt. And then next to them, they're building new town, and you'll see like a sign. There's another town called next. Oh my God, what was that noise? Speaking of building.
Sorry, I was trying to adjust it.
Yeah, it's just like when you do that, it's very loud.
I'm trying to multitask.
Piercing.
I'm trying to multitask.
Yeah.
And I will not do that again.
It's just piercing my ear when that happens.
You don't understand. I have an OCD. Like I see a drill, I need to use it. Yeah. I apologize.
It's okay.
And I won't do it again.
Speaking of building, yeah.
And
yeah. Well, that's the sound. That's the sound you'd hear in the last few years in that area, part of the Israel. And they'll put up a sign of a town, Adayad, Yeshuv Hadat, these cool names, and there's nothing there. And I asked my friend, I'm like, so what's going to be, there's a sign here, but there's no houses. It's like, yeah, we're going to start building some, whatever, houses, caravans. And I'm like, but what about, did you, any approval? He's like, oh, you know how it goes here. They'll dismantle it, we'll rebuild it. They'll dismantle it, we'll rebuild it. Even our own people who are pro and who are just, doing this just to appease some European NGO or the UN or I don't know who. Klaus Schwab, whatever. Klaus Schwab's little minions, little gremlins. Hashem is going to override their crap. They cannot be stopped. We cannot be stopped. The prophecies, I work in the wine industry. The prophecies of Yirmiyahu and there's other prophets and Amos have been fulfilled. The vineyards are, being planted. They should come back to their towns and build the cities and plant the vineyards. That's the pasuk from the Tanakh. That's it.
Yeah.
The nevuah has been fulfilled. This part of it at least. And so that's it. Nothing. You can't. It's going to keep going. History is it's a freight train now at this point.
I think that this is probably not so true anymore. But for a while, the lefties in Israel were heartbroken that when they realized they're not going to get their commie utopia.
Dude, the lefties in Israel,
they're not going to get their plastic rimmed glasses, Woody Allen, intellectual chess playing utopia. They're not going to get it.
Do you know who made the best ever map of all of these little tiny towns in Judea and Samaria? The best outline of a map? An organization called Peace Now. It's on their website. They have they made a better map than any settler ever could. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's mamish incredible. It's mamish incredible. It's just I don't know. Like I always tell settlers, I'm like, you guys are disorganized about your stuff.
Yeah.
You know who's organized? Peace Now.
No, they're always like, they're good at that. You know, like lefty nerds are great at organizing. They're great at.
Yeah.
They're nerds. I mean, it's hard. You know, like
the Erevrov is very artistic. The Erevrov is very good at aesthetics, at what things look like, not necessarily substance, but how things are presented. That's why you see all this like stuff is like reputable. You know,
they're good at compartmentalizing.
But also like the vax stuff is very presentable. It's very shiny. It's very official. It's very, you know.
The Erevrov, you know, their origin is the Egyptian priesthood. That's who they are, and so the priesthood, Egyptian and otherwise, not necessarily the Kohanim, but the priesthoods from the ancient religions, they were excellent in classification. They were they're like Aristotle in a lot of ways, where they needed to observe, organize, classify. Okay, they needed to make sense of their environment. They needed everything to be understood, everything to be left brain, and you know, just kind of anthropomorphized. Did I say that right? Anthropomorphized. I don't know how many of those you have to do. Okay. So they were very anal. I don't know if is that a psychobabble term?
Yeah. Anal retentive.
It's probably wrong, but it sounds right. That's the point, you know.
Exactly.
You know? Anyway,
we have substance. We like the terminology. But we have the substance to make over it.
Right. These guys needed. They were not flowy people. Okay.
Who was
they
that?
didn't. Oh. They were not really into how the true nature of reality is very, very kind of fluid.
Yeah.
Okay. The bot, like, I think one of the things, like, why God made it like that is to kind of teach us that it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to put it all together.
Yeah.
There's always going to be elements of reality that you're not going to be able to figure it out. You're not going to be able to figure it out. I can let you get comfortable with some parts of it, like the Egyptian priesthood. Like they got to a really high level.
Yeah.
They got into the circuitry of the universe. Like there's on a certain level, they really knew their stuff, but there was a point to which was beyond their ability to understand. They weren't able to probe past a certain point, and they understood that when God sent the plague of lice, because according to their understanding of science, their understanding of physics, right, and their understanding of physics, by the way, was far advanced to today's understanding.
Of course,
that's a side point.
Yeah.
So they at least understood that we literally live in a program, and that there's a programming language. They understood. They had a better understanding of the nature of the environment that they were living in, meaning like reality, right? And how to affect it, right? Like, what do? We come up with some kind of mechanical contraption to help us. They didn't need that garbage. That's why you don't find all this, landfills full of crap.
Yeah.
Entire mountains full of rollerblades. They didn't need rollerblades. Remember rollerblades?
Yeah.
Remember what happened to rollerblades? Everybody had rollerblades. All of a sudden, somebody said rollerblades are gay, and then a giant landfill full of rollerblades. See, they didn't need rollerblades in Egypt, okay? Because they understood how to transport themselves using the program. Yeah. They understood that they lived in the holodeck. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Okay? The problem is they thought that they were tops when it came to understanding the programming language. And when Moshe came around and started doing some of this stuff, they're like, whatever, we can do this too. Like our little babies can go and do what you just did. They only understood that they were out of their league with the plague of lice. Because according to their science, they could not manufacture and they could not control phenomenon that was the size of lice and under. Yeah. That's when they understood we're effed. Yeah. Okay. So the Erev Rav they still have that. They still have that in them. Okay. Yeah. And they're very rigid people. They need to know where everything is. They need to be in control of everything. They think they can control everything. They didn't learn the lesson from Yetzias Mitzrayim. They even got to some of these guys. They're not all bad. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu grew up with these guys. He knew them personally. He had the same education. He understood their mindset. Yeah. He saw the spark in them. Yeah. Okay, and he thought that they were worth saving, or elevating, or working with. Right, despite God's warning. Okay, but they never learned their lesson the entire time. They never learned how to go with the flow. They never learned that they're not going to be able to control anything. They never learned that God will constantly be making a fool out of them. Yeah. Okay, my only confusion is that why is God? I don't know why God does anything, but he sure seems to be hurting a lot of innocent people in the process of teaching the Erev Rav lesson, which is mystifying to me and very hurtful.
Yeah, well, we don't know. Those Kishbanot, we don't know. Those calculations, we don't really know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. So it's enough already with these guys, but we just have to understand who they are. Okay? Yeah. And their extensions, the Amalek, right? In the rest of the world. Yeah. Okay? So but I wanted to get back to we veered off a little bit from something that I think is important. Could I revisit the how do you bring Moshiach? Yeah. Okay, so the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, learn everything there is to know about Moshiach. Yeah. And it stands to reason, well, this is how I view it, that even if you don't believe the Lubavitcher Rebbe was Moshiach, right? And everybody's allowed to believe that someone's Moshiach. You're free to do that. There's no halacha against it, by the way. Yeah. Okay? If the man fits if he's a direct lineage of David, if he has, if he's the leader of the generation, if he's doing the stuff that the Rambam is discussing, if he's fighting the wars of God, and so feel free, if you know somebody like that, be my guest, whatever. One thing that I do know is that I don't think that the Rebbe, I believe he was Mashiach, I do, but I don't think it was that important for him being Mashiach. I think that he would just, be standing there with me, well, saying like, all right, let the guy just come. I don't care. Okay, fine, it's not me. All right, who is it? Let's go. Let's get a move on. Right? That was his.
Yeah. He didn't care if he didn't care if it was him or someone else.
He didn't. He wouldn't care if it was.
Why do people keep running around and saying that the people who are anti-Chabad or whatever, they keep saying that he claimed that he was.
There were times. Mm-hmm. Look, he never came out and said, "Yes, I am Mashiach." Or
What did he hint at it even?
Pledge your fealty to me. He never said that.
No, obviously not. Obviously not.
But he did everything but say it. It's almost like there's a very important aspect to Mashiach where you have to put the people have to elect Mashiach. By the way, I don't know if you knew that.
I know they do.
Remember David Melech, right? Yeah. So he was the king of Judah. Yeah. For a long time before he was accepted as the king of all of Israel.
There were wars that had to be fought and all this kind of political whatever and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, even though God already elected him king a long time ago, the people had to do it. The people had to pledge, had to accept him. Okay, so he ruled in Hebron. That was his first capital. Okay. So Mashiach's life follows the pattern of David's life. Okay, so so Mashiach is not going to come out and say, "I'm Mashiach," and I mean, at a certain point, I think that he will. If he comes with with the lightning and the thunder, I think game over. Enough already, right?
But like, what do you say? Gozer, Gozerian, all that kind of stuff.
I was just Gozer the Gozerian was a bad guy, and I'm not. Yeah. And I'm not comparing Gozer the Gozerian or the Keymaster to Moshiach. Okay, I'm not. For the record, I'd like to state that I'm not. Okay, but Gozer did show up with lightning and thunder. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting, even Gozer was like, choose the form of your destructor. Yeah. Gozer came to mess up our world, right? Funny. But still, we had to choose, right? Yeah. We had to elect our executioner. Yeah, that's really okay. Funny. And Ray chose a giant marshmallow man. God bless him. Yeah. So if you're going to choose a destructor, you might as well make him out of marshmallow, right? Good idea. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my point is that there is an element of having to elect Moshiach, okay? And so he never, again, back to the Rebbe, he never came out and said, yes, I'm Moshiach, but he had said, I'll give you an example. He said stuff like, my father-in-law was Moshiach. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. He would say that that the Rebbe, when he said the Rebbe, he's talking about his father-in-law. Yeah. This is like after 35 years or 40 years of him being the Rebbe. Yeah. He was saying the Rebbe, my father, right? Because he saw himself as a limb of his father-in-law, an extension, an assistant, just a tool in the hand of his father-in-law. Yeah. That's how he viewed himself. Yeah. Okay, only in that sense did he, I think, view himself as Moshiach. Mm-hmm. Okay, but because of his association with his father-in-law, and because of his great love for his father-in-law and respect, and he wasn't just being nice. Do you understand? Like, so, you got to take what he says seriously. So that's what he believes. So Mashiach, look, aside from who is Mashiach, just getting back to the point. You can think, you can think whoever you want is Moshiach. Okay, you can think Moshiach is some guy in a cave who hasn't seen the light of day in 25 years. Yeah. Okay, whatever you want. He lives in some little cobblestone street in Yerushalayim. Whatever you want to believe, it's fine. Okay, but the point is that you have to learn what Chazal had to say. Every word seriously has to become the most important subject in your life. Okay, and it would be a good idea to study the writings on Mashiach by the primary Mashiach scholar that the world has ever known. That would be the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So even if you don't believe that he's a Mashiach, if you're an honest person and you're not full of some kind of weird, bitter, tribal garbage, right? Some kind of weird Haredi tribalism, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not full of that garbage, and you have somewhat of an open mind, and you have some honesty in your mind, then it'll be very difficult for you to argue that the Rebbe at least wasn't the primary scholar on the subject of Mashiach. Mm. His writings, I'm not just talking about the insane volume of his writings. Yeah. The amount of it, it's overwhelming. Like I don't know how anybody could write that much in an entire lifetime.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay? It's insane. Like, how could you even do that? So that's beside the point. Yeah. But the quality of it, the detail of it, but okay, fine. You don't want to. That's my recommendation. You don't want to study the Rebbe's teaching specifically. Study just read Chazal. Read somebody's teachings. Just spend your time learning about Mashiach. That's all. Yeah. And that's why Rabbi Mendel Kessin he's a man. Like he doesn't. As far as I know, he doesn't study the Rebbe's teachings on Mashiach, but Mashiach's every other word out of his mouth, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and he's a Lakewood guy.
Yep. Well, listen, there's nothing. Okay. There's the thing. I was like talking to my friend today. My friend who used to go to Kabbalah, he still does go occasionally to Kabbalah Center, and I said, "Listen, man, you learned calculus, but they didn't give you algebra and geometry and this and that and the other. But I think it's even worse that there are people who know geometry and algebra and trig who are afraid of calculus. namely the majority of the Orthodox world today. They're afraid to learn Hasidut / Kabbalah, and they're afraid to talk about Mashiach. And credit to Rabbi Kessin, he's not afraid. As much as he's like a
But at the same time, I don't want to. I want to stick up for them for a second. The people who are afraid to learn about Mashiach.
Okay.
It's extremely understandable, because learning about Mashiach and talking about Mashiach so far, historically, has led to crushing, soul-numbing.
I know. That's why they're not.
Depression.
I know, because Shabtai Tzvi and all that kind of stuff. I know.
Yeah. Not just that, just every moment. Shabtai Tzvi, Bogdan Panitsky, the Holocaust, and how many years after the Holocaust, and like when is it going to be enough? They don't even want to approach it.
Dafka is easier to sit in Teaneck and say, just live your life. When he comes, he comes. That's as close as they'll get to talking about Mashiach. Live your life, when he comes, he comes.
Just to let you know, these people are tzaddikim, by the way.
I know.
We got to get our perspective straight for a moment.
Yeah, I know.
Anybody who's still sticking with Torah,
of course,
is a legend. Is literally like
with Daf Yomi, with 3 times a day davening, with this and that and the other.
When you ever go on like YouTube and like you want to watch like Billy Idol Rebel Yell or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you'll see some YouTube comments that anybody here in 2021 is a legend, right?
Yeah. It's like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and Billy Idol's only 30 years ago.
These are the people in the YouTube in the YouTube watchers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I'm channeling Manus Friedman.
Yeah.
He was saying that it's incredible. Anybody who comes to a Jewish event, anybody who says the word bagel, anybody who does anything Jewy remotely in a positive way. Yeah. Right? Or thinks anything is literally a legend, a tzaddik beyond imagination. Because why would we do this?
Yeah.
Our Father hasn't spoken to us in 3,000 years.
Yeah. It flies in the face of everything in society is right, or even the good stuff in society. It flies in the face of, supposedly.
Yeah,
like it's so out of the realm.
Right. It's like think about like. Like you have a father. This is a pretty kind of messed up mushal.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have heard it partly from him, and maybe I don't know what part of this is coming out of my head. Okay, but it could be okay. So you have a family, you have a father and children sitting around the table, right? And then the mother is preparing dinner, right? Mm-hmm. And then the father leaves and doesn't come back for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
3,333 years, right? Yeah. And he comes back, and the kids are still sitting there at the table, waiting for him to come to table, still talking about what kind of soup he likes.
It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane.
Why would we even do this? Why? How? Anyway, so the point is that anybody who is trying to do something Jewish with their life is literally a living legend, okay? And I don't think enough people focus on that.
I hear. I agree.
Or anybody... and by the way, I'm also talking about non-Jews, no hides, people who believe in Torahism. Yeah. We should start a new religion. It's called Torahism or Godism.
No,
okay?
They believe that they believe. I'll tell you, no hides. They believe that. Listen, at the that first of all, whatever. At the no offense to any Christians listening to this, but that Yoshka ain't the thing. And and they believe that, like, at the very least Hashem gave these laws to the Gentiles, and that's basically it. I don't even know if you call it Torahism necessarily. They're not following all of the Torah or mitzvot. They're just following the 7 basic laws of Noah.
No, I'm not describing that. I'm describing a person who's more like a ger tough.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about non-Jews who are Torah scholars.
Oh, so yeah, no, so some of those people are actually not Torah scholars for not for the reasons you think, for more academic reasons.
I'm talking about. Here's who I'm describing.
Okay.
A non-Jewish person who understands, who is intelligent and has seen the nature of the text of the Torah and understood that this is not a normal document,
correct,
unlike anything else in the world. Code upon code upon code, layer upon layer upon layer of infinite information. Impossible for anybody. Only the creator could have created such a document, because you need a being outside of the creation to be able to do that. Okay? And okay, so now they want to know, what does the creator want from me?
Yeah.
And then they study the halachot that apply to them.
Yeah.
And they also study the halachot that don't apply to them, just because they want to learn Torah. And they want to because they know that Torah is is literally God's mind.
Yeah.
So they learn. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, Christians. I'm not talking about, people who just like to study it as a scholarly subject. I'm talking about religious, Torah observant, non-Jewish people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They used to be called Ger Toshav when they came to
Israel. I was going to say something, and I forgot what I was
going to say. Now they live in Texas. Now they live in Lubbock,
Texas and
that's
Arizona, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico,
Brazil.
I was going to say that my father, every so often, he will tell me, Tzvi, if I wasn't a Jew, I would either want to become one or kill one.
Those aren't the only choices.
That's what he for him, because he goes, the emes of the Torah is so true that I would either want to become one of these people, or I would be so jealous of these people that Hashem kind of, I don't want to say chose them, but like gave them responsibility to do X, Y, and Z. I would just be enraged as to why he didn't give me that responsibility.
So when it comes to let's say, well, think about conquering empires, right? What did every conquering regime do to the people that they conquered? They subjugated them, raped them, stole from them, and denigrated them, right? That's just standard pattern, right?
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Because they want to establish their own superiority, right? Yeah. So when people think, you have non-Jewish people who think that when they think about the Jews taking over, right, they picture the same thing. And it's an intolerable idea to think that some Jewish guy is going to, he's going to, get everything first, and he's going to get all the hottest broads. Right? Yeah, he's going to get all the privileges. It's a ridiculous idea, and it has no base in the Torah.
Yeah.
Because the point of the Torah is not to raise yourself up.
Yeah.
Right? It's to raise God up.
Yep.
The only way to raise God up is to nullify yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, in God's kingdom, in God's empire, the guys who are running the show are the ones who are the most not there.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yep.
They don't want special. They're not going to be in limousines.
I was making. I was making. Can I tell you something? On Shabbat, I came into this little shtibel in Manhattan Beach, and my friend is sitting there. This is in Mincha, and he's sitting there. There's a class going on all the way in the back, and he's sitting there kind of by himself, just learning. I don't know, Me'om Lo'ez, like commentary on the Chumash, whatever it is. And I go to him.
Yeah.
I go to him jokingly. I'm like, bro, you know who you look like right now? I'm like, you look like one of those, like, if I go into one of those like tiny shuls in Nachlaot, those like Sephardi Mikubal shuls, and you look like a Mikubal sitting there in the corner, and he never talks. All he's doing there is sitting and learning, and once a month, like, it's almost as if nobody even notices him, and then once a month, everybody in the shul literally gathers around him to like hear what he has to say, or like he'll answer their questions. Other than that, they don't pay attention to him. They act like he's not even there. He's like the old man in the corner, mamish. Like, that's the point. That's the flipping point. Right. to be the old man in the flipping corner.
Right.
Who has all the wisdom. We're not going
to hog the boats and the yachts. You guys could have them.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not going to... Remember that scene? What was that movie where they had to fly to space to divert or blow up a comet or an asteroid, a meteor?
Deep Impact or something like that, or one of those. With Bruce Willis? Deep Impact.
Yeah, with Bruce Willis, right? Remember when they, when they're like, oh, let's hit the strip club, right?
Or Morgan Freeman.
And they go to the strip
Robert
club.
Duvall. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. Bruce. There was 2 movies that came out. There was Deep Impact and
the one with Bruce Willis.
Armageddon. It was Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Armageddon. There you go. Yeah. Armageddon. Yeah. Okay. So they're in the club. They're in some strip club, right? Some high, like as if there's such a thing as a high class strip club, or whatever. And then they're hogging all the ladies, right? Let's say. Yeah. And then the other guys at the club, like these big kind of like angry biker looking dudes, right? Yeah. They come up to them. They're like, "All right, fellas, maybe you should share the wealth," because like all the strippers were hanging around them. Yeah. That's what people picture, right? That's the standard pattern when the winners come and take over. All the women are now hanging around over them. Like the Nephilim. Yeah. Right? Like the Bnei Elohim. Like they came, they showed up, and that's how they behaved. Yeah. Right? They just grabbed all the women and all the stuff, and the lower beings felt helpless to do anything about it, and that sense of helplessness, that humiliation, that's what people. They fear that. Yeah. Okay, that's not a Jewish empire. Yeah. That's not a Jewish emperor. Okay, the Jewish emperor sits in the corner of the shul studying the little book, and he's content sitting there all day. That's what David HaMelech was like when he wasn't in battle. By the way,
correct.
Okay, he was sitting under a tree with a scroll. Okay, he would sit under a tree. Yeah. All right. So, and just prophecy. That's what he would do. Okay. So, I can hear some wise guy somewhere. I can hear some wise guy thinking, "Yeah, what about Bathsheba? What about the thing when you killed
it's like this Israeli atheists every single day with this nonsense."
Not even. Actually, that's not who I hear. I hear I hear some. I don't know why I hear some wise guy. Yeah. You know why? Because I was on construction sites, and I literally heard these wise guys before, right? Yeah, don't tell me about David, King David. He wasn't that mild mannered guy you're talking about. Yeah, he had broads, and he was a warrior, and they were making out to be something.
It's called
ridiculous, something that is
dickwad.
No. You don't understand. David HaMelech was not this like. It's not how people picture him. Okay, him and his men were nerdy rabbis. You understand? Yeah. That whole let's focus in on that situation when he went to see when he was still being pursued by Shaul, I believe, and he needed to get some provisions for his men, and he knew that what is his name? Naval.
Yoram ben Naval.
No. Naval. I think his name was Naval. He was a wealthy guy, and his wife was Abigail, who David later married. Right.
Hold on.
Naval.
No.
I know it's the same letters as Lavan. It's just
Nabal.
Yeah.
Nabal.
Okay. Yeah. So. Right. So Naval is just like kind of whatever. Let's not talk about it.
Rich Calebite. Described as harsh and surly. Threatened by David over an insult and ultimately killed by God. Interesting.
Yeah, he had a heart attack, I think. Mm-hmm. David HaMelech was going to... See, David had an issue. He was always trying... There's a lot of people who were insulting him. Mm-hmm. He was always trying to figure out ways to not kill them, because halakhically they're supposed to die, because he's the king. Mm-hmm. Right? So this was his issue. So him and his generals and his men, they were like, they were like a rabbinical court. They weren't indulging in their, in their warrior spirits. That's not what we're talking about here. Yeah. They were just, they only cared about God. They didn't care about anything else. Yeah. That's who we're talking about here. People are disgusting when they think about King David. It's the Christian view of David. It's actually the Christian view of all of the biblical people, because their whole thing is to show how perfect Jesus is and compared to them. Yeah. In comparison. Mm-hmm. So they no problem pointing out character flaws, especially ones that weren't even there. Okay, yeah. So and we know that let's take the Norse religion, right, or any or the Mahabharata, any culture. They have the gods, right, are idealized, and they're awesome and mighty, and the heroes are always epic and beautiful and perfect, and they're always kind of like romanticized, right? Yeah. So in reality, those guys were pricks and disgusting, filthy, beastly murderers. Okay. Yeah. Now, in contrast to that, you have the people spoken about, like the patriarchs, right? Mm-hmm. And King David, people like this, and the Shavatim, right? The 12. These actually were the greatest people who ever lived, by far. No comparison. Okay? And they are, and the Torah portrays them in, it always just shows them in not the best light. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. One of the reasons is because Torah is truth. And Torah is communicating, saying that no matter how great these people were, and if you were in their presence, you might think they're a god, the truth is, they were human beings, they were not God, and they were imperfect. So don't start idealizing them, and don't start worshiping them, because they were not entirely perfect. They were the best people who ever lived, but remember, they're just people. Yeah. Now, people can be impressive. People can be very impressive. People can reach a high level, but don't overdo it. Yeah. I think that's the point. Yeah. So David, he's often criticized for Bathsheba, right? The thing with Bathsheba. Okay. So, and people accuse him of stealing some other guy's wife. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not at all what happened. Not at all. Hmm. Okay, but that's what it looks like, and that's the problem. Yeah. Because if you give somebody an excuse to believe something about you, right, and you allow it to look that way, then you are asking for it. Perhaps King David could have been more careful with how he approached that. Who am I to criticize him? I'm just saying that, like, what could he have done, right? Like, he did at every stage he did what he thought was right. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so he turned out to be wrong, but he was doing it for God. He thought he was doing it for God. Okay? Yeah. So the guy, what's his name? Was it Uziel the Hittite? Was it Uziel?
I'm not sure. What is this in reference to?
So this is the guy that he sent to the front to die, and then married his wife.
Hmm.
Okay.
No, that was what's his face? Here.
Uriel or Uziel?
No. Yeah, Uriah.
I'm sorry, right?
Uriah. Put Uriah at the front. Uriah
Hahitti. Uriah Hahitti. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hittite. Yeah.
And he wasn't really a Hittite, by the way. Yeah, that was just a name that was like Doeg Hayadomi, Doeg. Yeah. Doug, yeah. Basically, right? Yeah. So they called him the Edomite, Doug the Edomite, because Edom in Hebrew means red. Yeah. Okay? And he was so good at arguing, he could win any argument. He knew everything. He knew the law backward and forward. He was an academic. He was an expert scholar. Mm-hmm. Okay? And anybody who ended up arguing with him would be red in the face, because they wouldn't, he would embarrass them in a debate. That's why they called him that. So they probably called Uriah the Hittite for a similar reason. Okay. Anyway, so Uriah was one of David's officers. Okay, and there was a war going on. Okay, and so now David would prophecy, and he saw that Bathsheba was supposed to be the mother of Moshiach. Okay, it had to be through her. Okay, now Bathsheba was not fully married to Uriah. It was a type of like engagement or betrothal. I'm not exactly sure what the thing is, because back in those days they first had like an engagement, and then that. I mean, it is considered a stage of marriage, though. It is marriage, but the marriage was not consummated. It's consummated like a year later with a chuppah. I'm not exactly sure why they did things that way in that time, but that was the point. So so they were not. It was not a completed union. Yeah. Okay. Now Uriah insulted King David, and according to the law, anybody who insults the king, that's the death penalty, according to Torah law. Okay. So David, always looking for a way to be merciful, and every opportunity, instead of executing him, sent him to the front, where he spent most of his time anyway. Yeah. Okay, he was an officer during a war with the Philistines. Okay, and he spent most of his time on the front anyway. Okay, so by sending him to the front, David was at least giving him a chance to come back and to live, right? Yeah. It wasn't very much different than just sending him to the front like he normally would. Yeah. The problem is that this time, and during this particular time, he didn't come back from the front. Yeah. Okay, and so when you pair that with his involvement with Bathsheba, it looks really bad. Yeah. Furthermore, in those days, when men would go to the front, they had this thing where they would divorce their wife. Yeah. Yeah. The reason that they did that was because if they were to be killed in battle and their body would not be recovered, right, and there wouldn't be any witnesses to their whereabouts, and so it would be a question of whether or not they are alive. And that means that as long as there's a question, the wife can never move on with her life and never remarry. Yeah. So the men would do a contingent divorce. Yeah. And that's a common practice by soldiers. Yeah. They did that all the time. Yep. So David married Bathsheba because he prophesied that he was supposed to. Yeah. Okay? Because there was supposed to be an offspring, which was very important. You know, the ancestor of Moshiach. Shlomo, possibly Moshiach himself. Yeah. Okay? So David never lifted a finger outside of doing God's will, based on his best, intuition as to what God's will is. Okay, that's who David is. Okay, he's not a swaggering warrior, when people think of David, they're picturing Asaph. By the way, that's who Asaph was.
I don't picture him as that.
Asaph was the spirited warrior who would go and have affairs with married women. That's who Asaph was.
Yeah, but for some reason I don't picture, only because I know that David did tshuva, so I don't picture him as that.
I don't know. But what's tshuva? What's tshuva for David? Let's be careful. Okay, tshuva for David means that he realized that he did the wrong thing, that he did something that he thought was in God's favor, but it wasn't. Yeah. And he was horrified by the realization, and he immediately begged God for mercy, and he did true tshuva, because only somebody who was trying to do God's will all the time, because he's so sensitive to God, when he realized what he did actually was not God's will, he freaked out and did tshuva. Of course, that's David's tshuva. Okay, so I just want I think it's important to get a clear vision of David for a moment here, for God's sake. Right? So just to would it be okay if I circle back? Because, I think I'm getting a little...
I want to say one quick thing regarding Moshiach. Somebody posted on Twitter. It's an organization called Freedom Israel. These are the guys that organize all the protests in, in Tel Aviv and stuff like that. Also in Jerusalem. They posted a chart. Daily COVID-19 vaccine doses administered per 100 people. This is official data. And you see the chart is going, starting from like October 1st to like 0.7 per 100 people. And then it goes down, 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 down. It's basically it's like, see, they wrote, great news. Right now, only one vaccine per 1,000 people in Israel is being administered per day. People don't want the booster. We are no longer Pfizer's lab rats. So, Baruch Hashem, at least people are realizing in Israel. People are waking up. They're realizing what's going on. See, it says, rough estimate, 10.5 million first two doses till end of April versus 4 million boosters makes a difference of 1.25 million people. See, the official government figures are, we think, 6.6 million got the first dose, 5.6 got the second dose, and 3.9 got the third dose. So it makes it over 2 million people who has the first dose and not the who had the first dose and not the booster. So 2 million people.
Maybe there's a connection between the third dose and like the 50th level of Tuma.
Yeah, for sure.
Like God, like God had to get Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim before they reached that level, which by the way doesn't even exist. By the way, I heard from something else, but from somewhere else. But so perhaps that's what's happening. I'm hoping, right? There's still like, I want to be wrong. My brother wants to be wrong. Everybody who's talking about the dangers of it want to be wrong, but you know what I'm saying.
I told you this guy, this guy who's he's actually a vax. He made a vax. He developed one in Australia. The scientist Nikolai. Here, 1 second. I'll tell you. Petrovsky. Yeah, but he sounds like you said Crocodile Dundee. You're like, Petrovsky. What is that? So the guy basically said, he's like, first of all, he goes, I can't guarantee, none of us can guarantee, all of our scientists, he's like, there's other scientists besides me who are saying this, they're just not saying it openly, can guarantee that nothing will happen to people in 5 or 10 years. We can't, he literally said, the only one who knows if it can is God, assuming you believe in God, if you do, right? And then he goes, for sure, we shouldn't be giving this to kids. I don't recommend it. He's like, listen, and you can read the guy's profile. He developed vax for influenza, hepatitis B, sting allergy, malaria, Japanese encephalitis, rabies, HIV. Authored 90 scientific papers and book chapters. Professor at Flinders. He actually was. I don't know if he resigned or was fired. Flinders University of South Australia, College of Medicine, Public Health, Director of Endocrinology, Vaccine Research, Professor of Medicine, founder of Vaccine, a vaccine development company funded by USA National NIH to develop novel vaccine technologies. 1979, Bachelor of Medical Science. 82, Bachelor of Medicine, so I guess went through med school. And 98, he got his PhD. Like, the guy made a vax, which is not being used in Australia. I guess it's not mRNA, it's a different type of vax. He made one. And he's saying, we just have no idea. We haven't a clue. On top of that, what he said was, this seems to me like a trial, like a clinical trial. And in a clinical trial, you're supposed to, get informed consent where people sign a waiver. And he goes, it doesn't actually, in that case, in those situations, if you're telling people they might die, it actually is not it doesn't matter because they're signing a waiver and they know what they're getting into. Here, you're telling them they might have this, and this, and this, including death, but there is no waiver. There's just a gun to their head in the form of losing their job or not being able to go here and there and everywhere. So he goes, that's a violation of the Nuremberg Code, straight up. This guy said that, not me. Not crazy, anti-blah, Tzvi. Or the brother of Dr. Zelenko or whatever it is.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I saw this video. I was like, man, I hope this guy has protection 24/7. I really do. because, and more people like him are going to come out, and like, I don't know, people in Israel are just, Israelis are funny because they like I said, they do everything with zrizos. They do things very quickly, and then they first do, and then they analyze what they did. That's how they start. That's how they do business. That's how they do everything. So they do it with zrizos, and then they try to unravel it with as much zrizos. When they realize that it's not working. No, like when it's not, like it doesn't work, and then they go lo meshane, doesn't matter, and then they just like close it. Okay, next, finish, next. Okay, they have no patience. They have no time for, sitting around and dwelling on the thing, because tomorrow they might get a rocket up their ass. So why sit around and dwell? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing here. They realize what's up. They realize what the government's doing. They realize the government's lying to their face, as if they didn't realize it before, and that's it. And one of this, I saw a comment. This woman is like, something. I already had kids. She's like in her 50s. She's like, I already had kids, and I don't really, I'm willing to take this stuff, and whatever it is, for some of the fertility, right? But I sure as hell will not allow these people to give my 5 to 11-year-olds this crap. She's like, I was willing to be a guinea pig for this stuff, but my kids will not be guinea pigs for this crap. And that's it. And people are understanding what's going on, and they're not going to comply with this. The question is, how is that going to pan out? What is that going to look like? Their non-compliance, and what is going to be the result? Meaning, like, either a bunch of people just get fired from their jobs in Israel, and then they just pour out into the streets, like we were talking about this, and you said that you don't know, you're not so like hopeful about that,
unless they, again, I mean, people have to look. Everything that people do that isn't desperately turning to God, is, I don't know, it's not much.
Yeah, I hear.
So when you say, I don't know how it's going to look. So earlier, remember we were talking about, or you were mentioning how all the fire stations are closed, and then somebody died in a fire because there was no firemen
in Washington, in Washington Heights. Yeah.
Washington Heights. So if everybody gets fired and nobody is doing their job, like firemen, or doctors or paramedics, I think that maybe that would, or the Domino's delivery guy. Yeah. That will cause riots. And I'm not trying to be cute.
And if the Noid, if there's no more Noid, Domino's, remember the
Noid? The Noid, yeah, I remember.
If there's no more Noid, everybody gets annoyed. Something like that.
Yeah, right. But that's a reference that some people are. That's very,
It's very 90s.
That's very niche.
Early 90s. That's very late 80s. The Noid.
Late 80s, early 90s, yeah. But the point is that if whoever's in charge of streaming Netflix or delivering Domino's, if that guy doesn't show up to work, I mean, that's when the pothead, couch potato is going to go to the streets. Like, what the, sure. I have nothing to live for.
Yeah. Listen, man, can I tell you something I forgot to tell you? A good friend of mine is I mean, he has smicha. I don't know how active of a rabbi he is, but he has smicha. And the guy he's one of the main activists in Jerusalem against what? And I'll tell you, the guy, there was an event in Jerusalem, a few months ago, and he spoke at this event. They asked him to speak. And the guy, like, he has a stutter, and he got up on stage and he was talking, most of the audience, and even in Jerusalem, half these people were not, it was a bunch of there's a lot of secular Israelis in Jerusalem who live in Jerusalem, and a lot of these people were at this rally, and the guy was giving over kind of like Torah ideas mixed with, whatever is going on and all this kind of stuff. And people were really into it. And you can tell that Israelis, everybody's got that Pintele Yid going on. What's up,
sure.
Wow, it's really loud.
What? What is?
There's a big, loud noise.
For once, it's not me.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. What the heck? Anyway, No, so I was just saying, like, you could tell that everybody's got that pintel yid going on, and these people, they were showing the people in the audience as he was talking. And it was funny, I was looking at this guy, and I'm like, wow, like, this guy's got a stutter. Who does that remind me of, you know? A guy that had to fight through his stutter to kind of lead people. I'm not saying, you know, Lahavdil, like, the guy's not comparing him to...
He did have a spokesman.
What?
The guy with the stutter had a spokesman, but still.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
I'm just saying, like we have to try to be Moshe Rabbeinu, our own versions of Moshe Rabbeinu's in this generation. We have to try to do that. And I noticed that in Israel, like people, there's a big, within this movement of people who already are coming out to the streets, there's like a spiritual undertone. Again, even if people are not frum or wearing kippahs or saying, Tehillim or speaking in like specific lashon, there are spiritual undertones to this. And, the sad part is, man, there's a lot of people, conversely, who are quote-unquote frum and daven and 3 times a day and learn and whatever it is, who are just turned off. There goes that noise again. I don't know what's going on.
It's not me. I actually don't hear any noise.
Really? I just keep hearing a noise.
What kind of noise?
I don't know. It's like somebody's like in the back. It's almost as if somebody's moving furniture or something, like, or eating something. I don't know. It's a noise.
Okay. Even now, I don't hear anything.
Now no, but before, very strange. I hear it again.
I promise you, I'm not using the drill.
I know.
Promise.
No, it's not a drill. It's not a drill.
I just so anyway. That's encouraging. That's encouraging.
Yeah.
And I don't, I'm not going to marginalize that. I'm not going to minimize that. I mean, I don't. You have a better idea of what's going on with Israelis than I do. So it's been kind of a mystery to me, Israelis.
Well, I think. Yeah. I think that, but what people don't realize is that everything begins and ends with Israel. Meaning, again, everything that the world is doing today, it's only mimicking what Israel did. The only difference is, I told you I was talking to my dad's friend in Ukraine, and I'm telling him, because I told him I'm not going to take, and he's like, well, you can't go here, you can't. He's like, you live in Israel, they also have these policies. I'm like, and I'm trying to explain to him that like, there's a big difference between what the Israeli government decrees and what actually happens on the ground in Israel because of hashgacha. He doesn't live in that realm. He doesn't understand what I'm saying. And then he goes,
right.
and they live in Lvov in Ukraine. So he's like, what do you suggest we do? We can't go to work. You can't go here. Can't go there. And I almost want to tell him, I'm like, dude, just have Emunah and quit your job or leave your country. You know what I'm saying? Do what our grandparents did with the gulag and the camps. Just fight. But are they going to do that? No, they have their job, and they like, and in Russian we say, "Ani molится на работу, ani molится на Бога."
That's exactly right.
Their savior is that boss. Their savior is that official or whoever.
The institution that they work for. That's why that's why people are taking the vaccine, because they worship the institution.
Yeah, they worship, or like they don't have a concept that like there's a Shem who maybe if they quit their job will find them something equally as good, or there's always Yeshuot, there's always Hashgacha Pratis, there's always Siyata D'Shmaya. They're not in that realm, and I'm trying to tell him. I did tell him, like, on a basic level, yeah, it's a problem. I said I don't have a solution. I was like, oh, this is the problem. It's criminal at what they're doing, And he tells me, well, you have the luxury of ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. I'm like, listen, man, I live in America. I can go to a different state, But what I really wanted to tell him is, dude, Emunah. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to tell you.
It's not even. Look, it's not even Emunah. You know what it is? I'm sorry to say it. It's pure. Really, it's laziness.
Yeah, that too.
People are so critically lazy.
Yeah, I know.
They're not open to getting up and changing. And and by the way, I'm not criticizing that.
Yeah,
I understand that mindset.
I get it.
I've moved like 13 times since I've been married.
Same.
And like the thought of having to get up and move again is awful. But if you got to do it, you got to do it.
Can I tell you something? These guys, this family, they have a house in Cyprus. It's not like they don't, they go travel. They got COVID. They went to Egypt and got COVID. The husband, my parents' friend. They traveled in Egypt to Sharm el Sheikh or whatever they went. The Russians, they go over there. Sinai, Sharm el Sheikh. And they have his house in Cyprus. So it's not like they don't they're not immobile or whatever it is. But yeah, just to drop their, the business is based in Ukraine. And just to pick up shop and pack up shop and move everything out and start somewhere else. That's not even for his son, at least. The guy's a semi-retired, but his son is like my age. That's not an option for his son. His son has a whole construction business over there and all this kind of stuff, and it's like deep roots. You can't just tell people.
It's right. You see, when you hear stories like famous success stories, right? From guys from the early 1900s, some famous, I don't know, Ted Williams, right? Famous baseball player. He had this crazy life. He was like a lumberjack / boxer, business owner, freaking I think he was he was a gold miner. He was a fighter pilot in World War II. You have these guys who they tried all different things. They were adventurers, and they made it big. They lost it all. They made it big again. And I'm not describing God-fearing guys here, but these guys? They believed in themselves, at least.
For sure. To get off,
right? They had a spirit. So it's a double layer of. Yeah. I don't know what you want to call it.
I can't criticize that guy, the one I was talking to today, because he made, when everybody was leaving to America, he stayed over there and he basically at one point he had a business, and he was one of these people that started a business back when it was illegal, in the late 80s. And at one point in the 90s, during the whole Wild West days, he had a choice to either be friends with the mafia or be friends with cops. And he chose the cops, who were also corrupt. This is in Ukraine, in Lvov. And,
just a different mafia.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a mafia with a uniform. So, in the badge. Yeah. So, and the guy had a lot of. He almost got killed once or a few times. He had a lot of risk. He had stuff taken away from him and whatever it is. So I can't, I get it. I can't kind of blame the guy. I can't really say that the guy is not, enterprising or never took a risk or whatever it is. But now that he did take a risk and he went through all the stuff that he went through, and he set the seeds for the roots to grow for his son, who took over the business. And those roots are very, very deep. And now it's like, what do you tell people? You spent years doing all of this, and now, well, just fight the power, no. And my mother even explained to me, she's like, she's like, Tzvi, you don't understand. You're talking to people who don't have the same concept of freedom as you do. They don't have the same concept of fighting against the government as you do. Even in Ukraine, and Ukraine is relatively free. It's not a communist country, but they don't have that concept. Their concept is the government does stuff, and there's corruption, and this is who you have to grease, and this is what you have to do. They don't understand they don't speak the language that you speak.
Right. Recognize the evil. Find the most comfortable position in it.
Yeah, that's their language.
And also, but the other thing is that the COVID vaccine has the way they marketed it, the way they branded it. It is not a clear and present danger. I think that's the primary issue why people aren't running to different countries and try to get away when they should.
Can I tell you what I wrote to my friend yesterday? I told you about my friend who's like pro-vax, but at the same time, he there's a lot of things he conceded to me when I told him, because he's against kids getting it and stuff like that. And I told you, I wrote to him the following. I have this weird feeling, because he's talking about pick your poison. That's what he told me. I was like, one poison is immediately visible in short term, relatively speaking. And another is not immediately visible, and yet, who the hell knows? The situations that concern me in life in general is when something is not immediately visible and yet has a risk. It's like when people tell me about Israel, when I come to them about living in Israel, they say, and they tell me about, what about terrorism? And then, America doesn't have terrorism. And I say to them, Well, in Israel, I can see those dudes coming from a mile away. In America, these attacks happen. You have no idea when and where. You know, so it's kind of like with this stuff. You have no idea. You're like your brother says, it's like a ticking time bomb. You don't know. Like Lou Montague says within 2 years. When we don't know. Within 2 years. Could be tomorrow. Could be a year and a half. Who the hell knows? I don't know.
Crazy.
Yeah. And but yeah, I don't know. I can't. It was it was a difficult discussion to have with this guy. I was just like, I really wanted to yell out, just like, fight the power. He's like, well, what do I say? It's like, fight the power. Yeah, Ukraine, fight the power. Sure, let's do that.
That's why there's no. That just reinforces how important America is.
Yeah, well, the American idea, at least, which actually comes from the Tanakh. It comes from the Tanakh.
That's what I understand. But that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about America is a mindset that if you don't have the mindset, it doesn't matter what geographic. It's not a country.
Yeah, it's not a country. It's an idea. Yeah.
It's a realization of a basic truth. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but I wanted to make sure that at least touched upon some of the amazing things that we talked about yesterday, because I felt like they were very, very important and practical. Like what practical info has to, if you're interested in game over, if you're interested in in seeing the resolution, then here's what you do, right? Bring in Moshiach, right? Yeah. So we talked about the Lubavitcher. Do you mind if I go back into this?
Rehash it. Yeah, do it.
So we said earlier, Lubavitcher Rebbe said, learn everything you possibly can about the subject of Mashiach, make it a full-time job, make it your field of expertise. Yeah. And obviously, one of the reasons is you got to know what you're looking at. Okay, you have to know the reality of Mashiach rather than the fantasy of Mashiach, and rather than the misunderstandings that people just perpetuate. Mm-hmm. So that's only part of it. It's only part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, I recommend studying the Rebbe's teachings about Mashiach, specifically because he was the world expert, possibly ever in history.
Yeah.
On the subject of Mashiach. Okay. But, as long as you're learning about Mashiach, study whoever you want. Okay. Okay. Now, would you mind reading just a small little section of the Baal Shem Tov letter?
Yeah, I read that yesterday.
Not the whole letter, just the part where he, where he talks to Mashiach. Mashiach tells him what people need to do.
Just to reiterate, this is a letter that was written to his brother-in-law in Israel, Rabbi Gershon of Kitov. And he describes his encounter with the soul of Mashiach, the latter giving him instructions as to how to hasten his coming. So this was published in 1781 as an appendix to Ben Porat Yosef by Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polnoye, one of Baal Shem Tov's chief disciples. So I'm just going to go fast forward. Okay. On Rosh Hashanah of the year 5707, I performed by means of oath a neder, an elevation of soul to the higher spiritual realms as known to you, and saw wondrous things I had never seen before. That which I saw and learned there is impossible to convey. Saw and learned there is impossible to convey in words, even face to face. When I returned to the lower Garden of Eden, one of the levels of the abode of the departed souls, I saw innumerable souls, both living and dead, some of whom I knew and others whom I did not. They were fleeting back and forth, going from one universe to another, through the column that is known to those who delve in mysteries. Their state of joy was so great that lips cannot express it, and the physical ear is too gross to hear it. There were also many wicked people who had repented. Their sins were forgiven, since this was a special time of grace. Even to my eyes it was wondrous how many were accepted as penitents, many of whom you know. There was great joy among them too, and they also ascended in the above-mentioned manner. All of them beseeched and petitioned me unceasingly because of the glory of your Torah. God granted you greater understanding to perceive and know these things. Ascend with us so that you can be our help and support. Because of the great joy I saw among them, I decided to ascend with them. Due to the great danger involved in ascending to the supernal universes, I asked my master, Ahia the Shilonite, teacher of Eliyahu Navi, I'll mention that as well, to come with me, and as I had never before ascended to such a high level. I ascended from level to level until I entered the chamber of the Moshiach, where the Moshiach learns Torah with all the sages and tzaddikim, and also with the 7 shepherds. I saw great joy there, but I didn't, but I did not know the reason for it. At first, I thought that the reason for this joy was because I had passed away from the physical world. Heaven forbid. Later, they told me that my time had not yet come to die, since they have great pleasure on high when I bring out unifications through the Holy Torah down below. To this very day, I do not know the reason for that joy. So that's just like the main part of the letter. Do you want me to read that? There's another, something like, about the, how to...
No, but it's about, no, it's what Moshiach said to him as to how to, when he said, when
I
will
asked
the master come?
I asked the Moshiach, when will the master come? And he answered, by this you shall know, in the time when your teaching will become public and revealed in the world, and your well springs will burst forth to the farthest extremes, that which I have taught you and you have comprehended, and they also shall be able to perform unifications and elevations as you, and then all of the klipot, the husks, will cease to exist, and there shall be a time of good and will and salvation.
Right. So So that the part of what he was saying was when they shall be able to do elevations like you, right? Yehudim and elevations, right? So Yehudim means unifications, and that's difficult to explain quickly, right? But actually, I have an example of a Yehud that is like, if people hear about this, it's like it's off the hook. Can I just quickly?
Sure.
This is, I don't know if this is officially a Yehud, but this is in that concept. Okay, so you have the name of God, Yud Hey Vav Hey, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, every Hebrew letter has a name, and there's a very specific way to spell that name. For instance, Aleph. Aleph is Aleph Lamed Pei.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are some letters that have more than one way to spell them. Hey and Vav. Okay, Hey has 3 different ways of spelling it, and Vav has 3 different ways of spelling it. Each one is unique. Each one has a very, very specific meaning. Okay. Now, when you want to write out the name of Hashem, the Shem Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, so there's 4 ways to do the milui, the fulfillment. Meaning, like, you can write the letter, just a regular letter, the way it's normally written, or you can write each letter with its full name, right? That's like saying, let's say you want to represent the USA. So we know what USA means, right? But if you wanted to fill it all out, it would be United States of America, and we could think of let's say the think about the word United. So NITED, those would be the hidden letters that are inside the U. Yeah. Okay, so it's not exactly the same thing, but every Hebrew letter has a name, and only the first letter of the name is revealed, and that's what we know as the letter. Okay, but it has hidden letters inside of it. Okay, so when you do the fulfillment of that, then you reveal the hidden letters. You reveal the full name of the letter. Okay, so if you were to do that for every letter in God's name, right? So you would have, actually, it would turn out, because there's 3 different ways to spell the letter Hey, and 3 different ways to spell the letter Vav. So you end up with 4 versions of the fulfillment of the Tetragrammaton. Okay, so the first one is spelled Yud Vav Dalet. That's Yod. That's always spelling of Yod, consistent. And then the second letter of the name is Hey, so this is the first version of how to spell the fulfillment of Hey. Hey it's spelled Hey Yud. That's its full name. Okay? And then the next letter, the third letter, is Vav, and in this version, Vav is spelled Vav Yud Vav. That's one of the ways to spell Vav. Okay, and then the final Hey is Hey Yud again. Okay, so that's called that's called the name 72.
Yeah.
Because if you were to add up, remember every letter is also a number. If you were to add them all up, you'd get 72. Okay. Now the next name, Yud Hey Vav Hey. So again, Yud is the same, but Hey this time is spelled Hey Aleph. Vav is spelled Vav Aleph Vav. And actually, no, I'm sorry. This is Shem Sag. I apologize. So Hey is spelled Hey Yud. We're still on Hey Yud. This is the second version. I apologize. Let's back up for a second. We're spelling it the second version now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey, so Yud Vav Dalet. Hey Yud. Vav Aleph Vav. Hey Yud. So that's the name 63. If you were to add up all those letters, it would be 63. Now, each one of these names that we're going to talk about means an entire universe of stuff, but we'll get to that quicker. Now, the third version of the name is where everything is spelled with an aleph. So you have again Yud Vav Dalet, then you have Hey Aleph, then you have Vav Aleph Vav, and then you have Hey Aleph, and that's known as the name 45 because if you spell it out, if you add up all the letters as numbers, and it turns out to be 45. Okay, and then the final version is simpler because it's Yud Vav Dalet, then it's Hey Vav Vav Hey. That one's easy to remember. Okay. So you have these four versions. Now, if you were to count up all of the letters in all of these four versions, right? You would count 39 letters. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're going to look at the name Elohim. So Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, right? Shema Yisrael, Yud Hey Vav Hey, is our Elohim. Yud Hey Vav Hey Echad. What he's saying is that Yud Hey Vav Hey and Elohim are one. Yeah. These are not two different things. These are not two separate powers. Everything is one. Okay. So now we're going to prove it mathematically. So if you were to, what's the spelling of the name Elohim? You have Aleph, Lamed, and then Hey Yud Mem. Aleph, Lamed, Hey Yud Mem. Okay. So now it has a Hey in it. So we know there's three different ways of spelling Hey, like we saw earlier. And so there's going to be three versions of the name Elohim. Okay, so if you were to write it out, right? If you were to do the Miloi, so it would be Aleph would be Aleph Lamed Pei, Lamed would be Lamed Mem Daled, and then Hey would be Hey Yud, and then what was it? Where am I? And then Yud Mem, right? So Yud would be Yud Vav Dalet, and then Mem would be Mem Mem. Okay, and then the next one, the second one would be Aleph Lamed Pei, Lamed Mem Daled, Hey Aleph, and then Yud Vav Dalet, and then Mem Mem, and then the final one would be Aleph Lamed Pei, Lamed Mem Daled, Hey, Yud Vav Dalet, Mem Mem. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you were to count up all the letters, the amount of letters that it took to describe all those three different versions of the name Elohim, it would be 39 letters. The same amount of letters that it took to express all the different versions of the name Hawaii. So that would be a kind of example of a yichud, where yichudim, you're trying to, on a certain level, you're trying to show that these two things that you seem to be different, that they're unified. That there are, when you study them closely, you see they're one. Okay? Yeah. And there's tons and tons and tons of mathematical codes like this that create these correlations that are just mind-boggling. Absolutely astonishing. Yeah. So, and this is like a little example, right? Yeah. They share the 39. There's a 39ness to both of them. Yeah. When you really study them, that's the idea. So, and there's plenty of things that unify them. Yeah. Okay. Why 39? That one I haven't learned yet, but I suspect it has something to do with Shabbat.
The Melachot, yeah. Shabbat.
Right. Okay. So anyway, so just wanted to kind of like, I know you're going to hear, there's going to be a lot of like wise guys and scholars and rabbis saying, no, that's not Yehudim, that's not Yehudim. Yeah, I know. My point is that the idea behind Yehudim is about making unifications and taking things that seem separate and just revealing their unity.
Yeah,
that's the idea. Okay, so when the Baal Shem Tov was speaking to Moshiach, and he was saying that people have to do Yehudim and people have to do a sense. So this is the kind of stuff that he wanted people to get involved in.
Can I tell you something real quick? It's funny. If any regular person reads that, what I just read, that letter, and they just read that ascent and elevations and all that kind of stuff, they have to know what the hell he's talking about. You just took 20 minutes to explain to me a remote idea of what the hell he's talking about. Why isn't that explained to people?
I think that's a good question.
We're just taking things at face value. Yeah.
I think that because when you take the first part of what Moshiach said to Baal Shem Tov, he said that, study your teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And when you study, which means Chassidus. Yeah. And when you're studying Chassidus, then you are learning, you kind of learn some of the stuff.
Yeah.
You bump into it anyway, so you are learning it.
Yeah.
And so the learning part could lead you to the second part.
Mm-hmm.
But so Bar Tzadok, Rabbi Ariel Bar Tzadok, he's of the opinion that to bring Mashiach, you have to focus on the second part of what Mashiach said to the Baal Shem Tov, that you have to practice the ascents. The ascents means you have to ascend astrally to the upper worlds, to the higher levels of consciousness, to the higher realms of reality, where the angels and the souls and all the celestial beings and entities and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of people train yourself. But we just mentioned that a lot of people in the Orthodox world find that to be very, very dangerous, and they stay away from that kind of stuff for obvious reasons.
So that right there is the Vilna Gaon, believe it or not, and the Arizal were, they said that this thinking is what prevents Mashiach from coming.
I agree.
That the tree of life that we should eat from is Kabbalah and Sitrei Torah.
Yeah.
Okay, and people being afraid of it, people shying away from it, is that's the problem, because Chassidus. So we have science and engineering, true science and engineering, right? Is the lower wisdom, and Chassidut and Kabbalah are the higher wisdom. They are both the intro to the Or Haganuz, the Or Haganuz.
Yeah.
That's what they are. Okay, and Rabbi Kessin talks about that all the time. So okay. Now, doing ascents, real ascents, is hard work. There used to be an academy for prophets in Israel, and we had, I think, where is it? Does it say in the Gemara that we had, like, in the entire history of the Jewish people, we've had 2 million prophets, and which is a tremendous number. So obviously, not all of the prophets were, most of those prophets, their prophecy applied to their generation, to the people that they were discussing, and there's countless prophecies that were given, but the ones that we have in Scripture, in Tanakh, those are the ones that apply to us and future generations. That's why we have them. That's why it was important for us to study them, to give them over, because we need that information to deal with our circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, but my point is that they had a Hogwarts for prophecy, and they taught you how to ascend and how to, and how to experience the higher realms and how to relate to them. Okay, so we have those traditions; they are available, and people should study them.
Yeah.
And make the ascents. Okay, and take it seriously and make it a very, very, serious part of your life. However, most people, it's pretty clear most people are not going to do that.
Yeah.
under the circumstances, right? It's only going to be a few people who are going to take the initiative to learn and to commit to the hard work of this, you know? And it's not taking ayahuasca, and it's not this, and it's not that. It's creating. We talked about some of it, right? The mental exercises, just kind of like floating in your own reverie. It's a serious study. It's the most difficult task a person can undertake. But it's worthwhile because that's what we need to be doing. Okay, so if you're up for it and it sounds like something you want to do, you should definitely do it. And even if you don't want to do it, you just still look into it and learn about it because it's going to be a big part of our life. You know, when Moshiach comes. Okay, so on that level he has a point, but he's not helping the majority of people. Like, who is he talking about? Right? Yeah. He's talking about a couple of adventurers, right? So what do we do? What do we do between these two choices? I think that both of them should be done, but the one that's accessible to most people is to study the topic of Moshiach, the subject. Make it like a daily part of your life, and so that's what will bring Moshiach. Okay, and obviously don't speak lashon hara, and obviously love everybody that is that it is appropriate to love.
Rabbi Kessin is big on lashon hara. He's like obsessed with that topic. I mean, rightfully so.
It goes without saying. It's a halacha. Like, keep the Torah.
Yeah, but he really gets you know what he was saying in the beginning of COVID. He was saying how this whole thing is connected to lashon hara. He said about he was talking about the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. We know that the whole story of they died because they spoke lashon hara. But he said that he's like, we know the why, but we learn in the Gemara the actual process of it was they had an affliction called askara, which was asphyxiation. And he goes, so there you go. He's like, the world is steeped in lashon hara. All the problems we have, you see the media, they just lashon hara people immediately, and it's like it's ridiculous. It's like lies, slander, and they make things up and they omit things and they sound bites and they'll post like half of the thing that you said or half, whatever it is. And he's like, this thing came to basically shut us up in a way, and we're still doing it. We're still on the internet and doing it and speaking it, and but it's a lesson to us in general.
There's a lot of symbols that that you can a lot of messages. Message. Remember that? What was that? Don't be a menace. While drinking and juice. I heard. Message. Every time in the movie. So, yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah. And that reminded me. There's one more thing that we were talking about. We were speaking about Chava. This might be part of what was erased or what we lost yesterday, right? We're talking about Chava being the Shechina, Adam, right? Like we were talking about that moment that a guy would see a beautiful woman, right? And that kind of like, what is that? We're talking about like guys who are even jaded from decades of horrible experiences and terrible relationships and many divorces, right? And yet they see a beautiful woman, and then they have that moment again. It's just for a moment, and then they remember all the big headache that comes with it afterwards, right? Yeah. So what is that moment? Remember we were talking about that yesterday.
Yep.
So I was saying that is that is an echo of the past. That is a memory that. This is my idea, by the way. Yeah. So take it with a grain of salt. But this is a memory that we all have from the first meeting with Chava. Yeah. Right? So which was like an idealized meeting, right? Where things went right. Things went right. Yeah. Okay? And the setting was perfect. Everything was as it should be. Everybody was in great shape. I'm just saying, everybody had a six pack. I'm joking.
Unlike what I'm today, saying, right? Where that happens, and then you get a text message, 180, sorry, whatever, blah blah blah. where you think that that's happening, where you think that everything is great and this and that, and then you get a text message 180 blah blah blah. Text message, not even a phone call anymore. It used to be a phone call.
Right.
Now it's just a text. There were no games.
Everybody was really, really fully conscious of exactly how they felt, and they didn't feel that there was no need for games. It was pure and perfect. Okay, so when we see that, we have an ancient memory from the past, because we are all Adam and we're all Hava, right?
Yeah.
So we have this ancient memory, this echo that reverberates in us, and it's also a possible reminder of what it will be again. I think that's what it is, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. But so just to go back to show that Chava is the Shechina, right? Okay, so it's very interesting, and that Adam is the Zer Anpin. Okay, so we know that we talked about the 4 different names Chavaya. Right? We talked about the one that is 72, the one that is 63, and the one that is 45, right?
Yeah.
So the one that is 45 is related to Zer Anpin. It's related to Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And there's a connection there even with the gematria, because Adam is 45, and this name of Chavaya is also 45. So there's that's also kind of a yichud, right?
Yeah.
And remember, I was telling you how Chava represents the most essential part of Adam, the deepest, the essence, the innerness of Adam, right?
By the way, I'm just want to let you know really quickly that we've been going already for almost 2.5 hours.
Okay, hopefully some of it got recorded.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna let you know that in about 5 minutes we're gonna pause for like 20 seconds so I could save the segment. And if we want to go on, we can. But whatever. Yeah.
Probably won't. Because I got to call my dad.
Okay.
But,
fine. Okay.
But so these are final.
Okay. Final thoughts from Jack Candy. Yeah.
From Jack Candy, right? These are better.
Yeah.
So basically, so the name 45 Chavaya, which is spelled Yud Vav Daled, Hey Aleph, Vav Aleph Vav, Hey Aleph.
Mm-hmm.
Straightforward enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you take all of the letters that are not the first letter, meaning all the hidden letters, all the letters that are normally hidden, right? So normally we just see Yud Hey Vav, we see Yud Hey Vav Hey, right?
Yeah.
So, but here we have the revealed letters, which are with the Yud it's the Vav Dalet, and with the Hey it's the Aleph. With the Vav, it's the Aleph Vav, and with the last Hey at the end, it's the Aleph. So if you add up all those hidden letters, you get 19, which is gematria Chava.
Yeah.
So you see that Chava is the Panemius. She's the essence of the essence of Adam. Yeah. So Hashem took the destroyed consciousnesses that turned to powder, essentially, from the previous worlds. He made Adam. So he took this relatively crude matter and formed Adam. And then out of this already refined matter, he formed Chava. Yeah. So you have it right there mathematically. Yeah. So you see these, all of the concepts that we have in Torah, are backed up like this mathematically. Yeah. I just want, because I thought it was a good moment to bring, to discuss that, because we were talking about the Shem Havaya. Yeah. Okay, but so learn everything about Moshiach, do Yehudim, and do elevations if you can, and also learn about how.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, what did you want to say?
No, I was just gonna say that speaking of elevations, I wanted to tell the story that I told you yesterday about my friend, the one he told about his mother, with
with Eliyahu Novi. Yeah. Oh man, I was thinking about that one. Let's save that because
you want to save that? Okay, fine. That needs to be.
we should have a conversation about that.
So you know what? So next time we talk, I'll start that off with that, and then we'll get into that. In deeper what that actually is or was, because he still can't make out what the heck that went on.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, but it's actually related to this. It's not automatically visibly related to what I'm about to say, but it is.
Yeah.
So my thought, in addition to what the Rebbe said and to what Rabbi Bar Tzadok said, and by the way, Rabbi Kesen says we should learn Mishnayos, and that'll also bring Moshiach, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I say that instead of asking the people to go and puncture holes into the realm of Yetzira, like Ariel Bar Tzadok is saying that why don't we study the cases recently of Yetzira poking holes into our reality. And I think people should begin by studying the USS Nimitz encounter.
Yeah, and the Tic Tac and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's the same encounter.
Oh, it is.
It's a 3-day event.
Fine.
3-day event, witnessed by thousands of extremely credible people that you give billion-dollar machinery to protect you. You should probably listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And so, so that's all. I just wanted to, close with that.
Anyway, man, we have like a minute, and so hopefully I'll be able to say
this time. Take it away.
All right, I'm pressing stop on the recording.